Hi, I'm Gemma Lauren Krebs, author of the Locked series. I am working on book 2 of the Locked series. You can find it, the first one, on Amazon.com. But I thought I'd give you a little bit of a taste of, I want to turn my books into audiobooks eventually. And since we're all hanging out right now and need some soothing and everyone else is reading things, I thought I'd read you chapter by chapter my book, Nothing Lost. So this is book 1 of the Locked series. And you can find me at the Locked series and at Gemma Lauren Krebs on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. I'll be posting the videos here on Facebook, but follow everything and comment and share if you like it. And you can get Nothing Lost on Amazon.com. Or in person from me. If you know me and want a book, you can message me. But definitely go to Amazon.com and check it out. But I thought I'd read you chapter by chapter. I'll upload every now and then. So sit back and just enjoy the story. I hope you like it. The Locked series. Book 1, Nothing Lost, by Gemma Lauren Krebs. Mandala, a spiritual practice that can involve crafting an intricate sand design. After its laborious and meaningful creation, it is destroyed, its sand scattered ritualistically. Symbolically, it says time and material items are transient. Nothing is permanent. Chapter 1. Great. It began at the light, that bright strip of sun falling across the floor of the dark earthen tunnel. It drew my gaze and I could hardly keep my feet from dashing forward. Shay, a skinny dreadlock fell across my father's face where moist paint glistened. Remember, shoes off at the light. I nodded vigorously. I remember, Father. Reaching the beam of sunlight, I plucked at the ties to my Nunyi skin boots and slid the translucent material from my feet. They drooped slightly as I set them on the flat rock against the wall. I marveled at the symbols carved into the stone, the same that were scattered across my face in teal paint. When I scampered impatiently back to my father's side, only one foot was free from his own shoes. I grinned and tried to be patient, inhaling the fresh smell of soil. My toes dug into soft dirt they now had access to. Halfway through scratching my face without thinking, I looked down and grimaced at the paint on my fingertips, then smeared it into the pocket of my robe. My father huffed, standing, finally ready to move forward. I straightened. He stilled himself before the stream of light and slowly inhaled and exhaled. As the master gardener, he would go before me. Each day he had to be the first to enter and last to leave the great dome of the garden. For the last 20 years he'd been the only one inside besides the queen. The appearance of the garden was still a mystery to me. Grand pictures of lush leaves, pools, and the great tree herself were all in my mind, imagined with brilliant colors and little hesitation. These visions had long been fed by the stories and solemnity of the apprenticeship I was born into. Shaylight. Starting out of my thoughts, I answered haltingly, Yes, Father? He never used my full name. Your task begins today. I know you understand the depth of what we do. Take this moment into your memory now, for you cannot go back. From the moment we breach the light, you are no longer my child. You are my apprentice." "Yes, Master." Settling myself with a breath, I did my best to shift my mind into the elevated state I'd worked so long to achieve. To be worthy of tending the garden and able to understand the behavior of the plants, I'd gone through years of frustrating meditation. Even recognizing what that mindset felt like had taken longer than I would have wanted. Now, though, I could more easily find the way to click my brain into that soft, quiet space that always waited. "Then let us move forward." My father's voice usually seemed too big for the spaces it occupied, deep and rumbling. But here, surrounded on all sides by earth, it was swallowed whole. I couldn't help but think we were both very small. Carefully pressing his feet into the soil before us, my father stepped onward. The sunlight shifted over his large frame, then over my own scrawny one as we crossed onto the hallowed ground. The smell of water swelled the air at the entrance. My father lifted a chain around his neck, revealing a small golden key. The same gold as the gate before us. A soft click, an oiled swing of metal, and we were finally in the garden. Dark hedges stood tall on either side of a narrow path. I couldn't see anything ahead but the rich silvery gray material of my father's robe. I looked up and marveled at the light coming through the panes of stained glass making up the dome. I'd only ever seen them from the outside, muted and dark. Here, though, where the sun could shine through, they spoke vibrantly. I knew the great tree wasn't far ahead. Excitement filled each of my limbs. My life so far had led to this moment. At the end of the high sentry hedges, my father stepped aside. The garden lay before me. There was nothing else like it in our world, but I was still disappointed. Trim shrubs wound along paths of rich soil in intricate designs. Orange, red, pink, yellow, and purple flowers spiked up and exploded from the plants. Between these were clear, jewel-bright pools arranged artistically. The great tree set at the center, though, did not live up to her name. To be sure, the tree was interesting. Unlike the plants covering our island, she was long and bare for the most part. The large chunk of wood making up her stem was light gray with shadowy lines crisscrossing upward. A spray of leaves shot out from the ends of each branch and were a bright, almost luminous green. They waved slowly, though the air seemed still around us. The tree was beautiful, but only slightly taller than myself. To have been called great, I expected her to tower to the stained glass ceiling above. Light shone down in brilliant streaks of golds and blues, spearing into the pools as purples and teals splayed over soil. There were a few places in the dome above left without panes to allow fresh air and pure sunlight into the space. Small roots at the base of the tree sprawled and bumped across the floor, seeming to seek out water, but they could not yet reach. "So here it is, Ch.1." My father's voice rose up. "Here, at 10 years of age, you are allowed access to the garden we must protect. What do you think?" I paused, not knowing how to express what I was feeling. It came out as a disappointed question. "This is the great tree, Master?" He gazed forward to the tree. "No." I almost laughed in relief. Of course this couldn't be her, because perhaps there was a more secret chamber where she was hidden away. This was a decoy to fool someone, maybe. "This Ch.1 is the tree of the fallen. He didn't pause, but I interrupted. Why are there two trees? I thought she was the only... His words cut me off swiftly. Ch.1, the great tree is no more. My mouth clamped shut. The tree of the fallen is the only remnant of what she once was. A quiet rage seemed to build up inside him, but the only sign was a slight movement of the hand hanging by his side. Did she die? I asked cautiously, not sure if I was ready to hear the answer, ready to hear how our family might have failed its task as keepers of the garden. The anger seemed to wash out of my father, his words empty. Yes, but not in a natural way. She was destroyed. We don't know who did it, and we don't know why, but the great tree was cut down and her seeds stolen. A hole opened inside me, an emptiness where my bright new life had been. Then a thought struck. But how did you grow the tree of the fallen if all the seeds were stolen? He let out an extended breath. I had long noticed that each branch of the tree looked quite like a small tree. Our last hope was to take one of those branches from her, plant it, and hope it would flourish anew. We were lucky. I'm not sure it would ever work again. I believe it was the power of the garden that did it. But the tree of the fallen has grown since then, and she will become the new great tree. He turned to me, his lined eyes hard. Ch.1, besides protecting the tree and tending the garden, our family's task is to guard this secret. Only you, I, and the queen know. The prince will learn eventually, as will his wife when he gains one. Anyone else knowing could cause a panic. Do you understand? I nodded solemnly. Good. At your next visit, we will perform the bonding ceremony and vow of non-violence required for your apprenticeship. Today, I simply want you to explore the garden, learning the placement of each plant and noting how they are to be cared for. Yes, master, I said, bowing to him, trying to remember the garden etiquette I'd studied. After nodding, he left me for the garden alcove to get his tools and begin his own work. I stepped gently along the path before me. The bright red of Glory's lips smiled up, and I knelt down to softly nudge the flower. Though I tried to enjoy finally being in the garden, I felt the presence behind me. A streak of purple light illuminated the tree of the fallen when I looked back to her hesitantly. Sighing, I stood once more and walked to her. She was so much smaller and plainer than I thought she'd be. Whether she could truly protect our ring of islands, I didn't know. Would she be enough? I almost started laughing at myself, but held it in as my father returned to water the garden. The tree of the fallen was not for me to judge. How many people had doubted my sparring and athletic talents because I was young or smaller than some of the other boys? Even with those setbacks, they were hard-pressed to beat me. This included the crown prince, who was 2 years older than me. My shoulders seemed to loosen. Perhaps the tree was small. Perhaps she wasn't the original tree, but that was no reason to doubt her. I reached out a hand and lightly brushed her rough bark. The only way to know if she was strong enough was to wait and see. It seemed this was the only tree we had. One day I would be her only protector. Her, the garden, and through them, the kingdom. I would not fail in my task to keep them safe. Who, though, would cut down the great tree in the first place? If there were people out there who wanted to destroy her, Would I have to protect her from them as well? At least I was training in swordsmanship. I could do it if need be. Before moving again through the richly green leaves of the garden, I gave the tree one last solemn touch. Though I still worried, for now I would trust that the tree of the fallen, the great tree now, would do her duty. I would try to do mine. A gathering of reaping sunlight lay at my feet, the skinny flowers bright yellow. How very large this task seemed, to protect all that lay before me. So that was chapter 1 of Nothing Lost by me, Gemma Lauren Krebs. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll try to get some more chapters up for you very soon. Anyway, check out my social media, follow, comment, like, share, and just enjoy me reading a book to you, because that's a nice thing. Have a great day, guys, or night, whatever it is. It's night right now. So I'm gonna head to bed, and I hope you found this enjoyable. Bye.